Welcome to New Stripe City, a YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. A big shout out to my subscribers. If you love the Bengals, you already know you need to bang that subscribe button. If you're a diehard, you already know that you should bang that notification button to become a part of Notification Squad. And if you're hoping that the Bengals will get a win this weekend against the Falcons, be sure to like this video as well as comment. So if you saw my last video for the Panthers, you know that I was pretty much spot on in my assessment before that game. But now it's time to get into the scouting report this week for the Atlanta Falcons. The Bengals head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, who are 1-2. And although they're 1-2, according to PFF, aka Pro Football Focus, they closely match up with the Bengals. So starting it off, it all starts with the quarterback position, right? And it starts with Matt Ryan. And Matt Ryan currently is coming off a 5-touchdown performance against New Orleans. He's actually having a pretty good season. He's got 897 passing yards, 7 passing touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. So he's on pace to finish near his MVP caliber season 2 seasons ago. And he's actually going to be one of the keys to this game. At the running back position, the Falcons have arguably the best tandem in the NFL when they're healthy, with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. Devontae Freeman hasn't practiced this week, and he's expected to sit out this week with a knee injury that's been lingering these past couple of weeks, which means the Bengals will more than likely have to deal with the explosive runner Tevin Coleman. And Coleman is coming off of a rough performance against the Saints, which he only rushed for 33 yards on 15 carries. But he was able to snag in a touchdown through the air in the receiving game. So he's going to be a guy that is a dual threat. And after they gave up 184 yards to McCaffrey, the Bengals will have to look to try to bottle up Coleman on the ground, who is similar to McCaffrey. The offensive line has had some issues with run blocking in the last game against the Saints. But this year they've actually been pretty good, and they've actually been better than the Bengals in that department, which isn't a tall feat. But it all starts with the left anchor here, and that's going to be Jake Matthews. Matthews is definitely the anchor for Ryan's blind side, and he'll have a pretty interesting matchup going against Jordan Willis as well as Carl Lawson. The next best lineman is their center, Alex Mack. And Alex Mack is a top center in the NFL, and he'll have his hands full more than likely with Geno Atkins. So we'll get to see what he can do as well. Rounding that up, they have a left guard by the name of Wes Shyster. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that name. And Brandon Fusco. Those look to be some of the weak points. So you could possibly see a guy like Andrew Billings attack them. You could also see a guy like Geno Atkins attack them. So that's where the Bengals will want to actually attack these guys, is there. And it's possible that Carlos Dunlap could attack their tackle as well, their right tackle Schrader, who's somewhat average, but obviously Dunlap is playing at a good level this season. So that could be a good matchup for the Bengals. Obviously, Julio Jones will be the best receiver that the Bengals have faced, possibly this entire year, arguably. This could be the first receiver that could cause the Bengal corners to actually trail a receiver if he gets started. One reason why is you don't want him having another 300-yard game like the performance he had on Ben Wickery against the Panthers, and that's what they did. They didn't have anyone follow him, and as a result, he got torched. And even though he struggled to find the red zone, you still don't want him tallying up yardage through the air. Next, we've got Calvin Ridley. And this is the part where it gets scary, especially after he caught 7 out of 8 targets last game for 146 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns, and that was only in 1 game. Ridley would definitely be a target to watch out for in this game, but we all know about the versatile Mohamed Sanu as he mans the slot, and he could be out to try to prove a point against his former team. But I think one of the biggest guys that could hurt us in the passing game the Bengals have been hurt in the past with tight ends, and I think Austin Hooper could be another weapon that could give the Bengals linebackers and safeties some issues in the passing game, especially if Preston Brown doesn't play. So that's another guy to look out for. But flipping sides, I think we need to also look at the defense for this team. On the defensive line, you've got Grady Jarrett, who's, I think with him and Vic Beasley, I think present the biggest threats for the Bengals offensive line. But Cordy Glenn will have a big matchup, and although it shows Brooks Reed there, more than likely he'll be going against Takaris McKinley, who was a rookie last year. So he'll be another obstacle for this line to go against, because he actually returned to practice today, and Cordy Glenn just had a horrible game last game. He allowed a total of 8 pressures, so that's another matchup to look at. But when you look at the secondary, they also have a pretty decent secondary. You look at it, you see Robert Alford there, you see Marcus Trufant. They're really hurting at safety, as they've lost both safeties, Keanu Neal and another safety that escapes me right now, but they've lost both of their starting safeties to the injured reserve for the season. So that could be something that the Bengals tight ends look to exploit there. I mean, we saw the Bengals play in a lot of double tight end sets and triple tight end sets, and it would be nice to see them do that this game. But they're clearly going to need A.J. Green, especially with Trufant out there, especially with Alfred out there. And if they can bring back A.J. into the fold, I think if they do have him out there, that Tyler Boyd should have a pretty good game. As you can see that Brian Poole really isn't that great in the slot. So that could be a matchup to exploit. Alfred versus Ross would be pretty interesting. Ross obviously coming off of a bad performance. This could be a game with the safeties being injured that he could possibly get deep. So something to keep an eye on. But as of now, that wraps up the scouting report against the Falcons. So be sure to comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. And as usual, I'll leave you guys with a who day, all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.